Hi, this is Chrissy Incognito, and welcome to another episode of my show. Now, you might be wondering why I'm incognito. This is my alter ego that can say things that I cannot otherwise say unless I was incognito. So, thank you for returning. In order to understand more about this episode, view the previous episode. Happy listening. So this is after Greg, and I want to share my dating experiences after Greg. Okay, there's only been two, and maybe some like miscellaneous. It could have gone somewhere, but it just, of course, didn't. Okay, so my friend who I was friends with for 30 years, which I mentioned briefly in the next video, she was again, I was kind of in a fragile state, so she's like, "You gotta get out there, you gotta get out there. You've gotta meet somebody, you've gotta move on, you've gotta get back on the horse." And normally, my state would have been like, "Just leave me alone and let me grieve by myself." But I was so vulnerable at the time that I was like, "Maybe I should be out there, maybe I should get back on the horse, maybe I should be doing this." So, we went on a website, I'm just not even gonna mention it, but there's like a ton of websites, meeting websites, and I met somebody, and his name was Pete. Okay, so Pete actually lived in my town. I find that it's very rare to meet somebody who lives within a 20-mile proximity to you, let alone in your town. And I was very nervous. Of course, I didn't want to, and it had nothing to do with poor Pete. It was just I didn't want to be with anybody but Greg. So we decided to meet at a restaurant and you know, I knew that he was going to pay. Because that's at least men sort of give like the gesture to pay. So I just made it a very like low key inexpensive restaurant because I didn't have high hopes and I didn't want to drag him to an expensive place and have him pay and then me never talk to him again. So anyway, we met and the second he now I did see his picture before I met with him, and he looked exactly like his picture, but there was just something about him, that just wasn't doing it for me. Again, he looked like his picture, he was attractive, and, but he got out of the car, because I was waiting in my car. He pulled up in his, and then we got out, and he hugged me like he would like a dude. I don't know. I don't know. I just didn't get a good feeling. And I know like when I watch these videos, I'm identifying a lot of incidental things that I'm like, yeah, I don't like, I don't like, I don't like. And I'm sure as the audience, you're like, What is wrong with this lunatic? She doesn't like anything." It's just a feeling I get. It's you just get a feeling, and if you don't, you need to, rehone your feeling because you need to kind of observe and watch everything if you're looking for, um, a good situation. I think a lot of people, both men and women, miss a lot of early signs. Now, I'm a little bit detailed oriented, and that's just who I am, um, but if you're just looking for a companion, yeah, I guess you're gonna be less critical, but I'm kind of looking for somebody to replace Greg, and even though he screwed me over, those are really big shoes to fill. So anyway, he hugged me and I was like, I just not. So we go in and we start talking and everything. And like at this point, I'm still willing to give it a shot, even though when I've hugged 1,000 guys in my day, I'm just talking about hugging. You know how guys hug that I don't know, it's very hard to explain. It's like your brother hugging you or your cousin as opposed to like a significant other, okay? I got a brotherly like type of hug, but I wasn't willing to throw the baby out with bathwater. So we went in and we started to talk and I was like, so you're not married? He's like, no. I was like, oh, okay. Now I'm sorry, let me back up. At this point, I had just turned 41. maybe like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months ago, whatever. And he was 32. So he was what I call still in childbearing years. So anybody under 40 to me is still like, I don't really believe you should be having kids after 40, whatever, but that's my opinion. I think you're too old to be running after them, and there's too many biological issues and that are just can happen. Okay. But anyway, so to me, he's still within childbearing years. And so I was like, "Oh, you're not married?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Oh, have you had like serious relationships?" He's like, "Two." Oh, he's 32. And he's only had two dates. And they were only like less than 6 months each. Okay. Now he's 32. Why haven't you had any long-term relationships? Like, if you had just had one relationship and it was 10 years, okay, like that's fine. I get it. You're not obviously going to have a bunch of experiences, but you're 32 and you've only had two girlfriends and they were like 6 months each. He alluded to that. I wasn't grilling him. I was just simply like, "Oh, you're not married?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "Were you ever married?" He goes, "No." I said, "Oh, did you ever have long-term relationship?" He goes, "Well, I had two relationships and they were about 6 months each." And I was like, "Okay." Okay. So we go on and we're just talking and I say to him, "Oh, do you like kids?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, sure. I'm a big kid." I'm like, "Okay." So we go on and the waitress comes over and I said, "I'll have the salmon, whatever with asparagus." And he turns to me and he goes, "I'm going to order something really weird." I was like, "It's a restaurant. Like, no matter what you order, it's fine." I said, "Okay." He turns to the waitress and he goes, "Can you bring me a dinner plate full of French fries?" Now you're trying to impress me. You're trying to somewhat act like an adult. Now, a lot of people out there would maybe feel not be taken by that. I was. Why are you eating garbage? Why are you eating garbage on our date? And so to me, it's like you can't even have a real meal with me. You have to have like I'm a big kid myself meal. Like, is this the garbage you're eating all the time? Like, I don't wanna have to tell a grown man, "You shouldn't be eating that. You fucking need vegetables and some kind of real meat, some kind of real dinner." So, at that point, I was like, "Yeah, we're over. We're over. Like, we're done." Again, when I watch these videos back of me saying it, I think you know, I'm sure the audience is like, "What is wrong with this woman? Of course she's never gonna get anybody. Look at this guy ordered fries and he's out the door." It's significant. It's significant. First of all, you're trying to sort of impress me, and this is what you order? And so it just to me, take it one step beyond, right? Not just the fries. What does this mean? This is gonna how he's going to eat all the time. He doesn't know how to take care of himself. He doesn't see a problem with this, which I do. And he goes, "Yeah, I just really like fries." And I'm like, "Okay." So I know a lot of you are thinking I'm crazy, and I probably am. Um, but these are signs that just don't go over well. Like for me, I don't want to have to tell a grown man he shouldn't eat like that. I don't want to have to tell a grown man like you need to eat vegetables and take care of your fucking self. Like I don't want to re-raise you. I don't like kids, okay? So anyway, we start talking and the waitress kind of looked at him a little weird and I was just like, "Oh, well, okay." So then he starts telling me he and his brother does um Storage Wars, like the Storage War, the show. He and his brother do that, and I'm like now he does have a real job, and he is a professional, sort of, kinda. Um, But I'm like, "What are you doing with all of" I said, "What are in these things?" He goes, "I don't know." I said, Wait a minute." I said, "Now I know the show, okay? I've just never met anybody to do this." And so I said, wait a minute. You're auctioning you're auctioning off something that you have no idea about." And I said, "Suppose you get the storage room or whatever place, and there's one thing in there that you want. What do you do with the rest?" He's like, "Oh, we've got to figure out how to get rid of it." I said, "What are you doing?" I don't know. It was kind of like a hobby, but it seemed like an extreme hobby. It just seemed, I mean, God bless him, it made him happy, and he was like, keeping himself busy there. But I was like, "Where are you putting all of this stuff? What are you doing with it?" He goes, "Well, we have to sift through it and then see what we can sell and what, maybe we can give away to somebody who likes this kind of stuff or what we want ourselves." And I was just like, I can't. I really can't. I mean, I love flea marketing. I love garage sales. I love antique shops. I love stuff like that. So I'm a tchotchke kind of like, I like a lot of stuff. He didn't want a lot of stuff. I don't know what he was doing with this. He was kind of selling it, but then he had to figure out how to get rid of it, and I don't know. It just didn't sit right to me. It wasn't. I've dated guys who like flea marketing or garage sale, and he liked that too. But I don't know. Like, I don't want to do that with you. I don't want to sit at some dirty roach infested storage unit and think, and see what you're gonna do. And I don't know. So we started going on, and he's like, all of a sudden, he takes out his phone and he's like, "Dude, let me show you what it looks like." And he comes from that side of the table all the way to this side of the table and starts showing me. Okay. He's like, "You don't mind that I sit here, right?" I was like, "No, it's fine." So he starts telling me, but he keeps calling me dude. Okay. I'm like, I want to say, I know you're younger than me, but you must have a brain in your head, right? She's like, "Dude, look at this. Dude." I was like, "We're done. We're done." He was a very nice guy. A very nice guy. And I went out on a few more dates just to try to give it a shot. It was going nowhere. He was a very, very nice guy. So, and I guess I just never called him again because he was kind of shy. I guess I would have had to do a little bit of the chasing and then he would have, filled it in there. But I was like, "I can't." And his name was Pete. I don't even know if I said his name at the beginning of this. So that was one of the times. And in the next video, I'll talk about the next time. So we just filmed the Greg episode, okay? And so I there was stuff that I remembered that I completely forgot that I needed to include. So let me talk about it. Okay. So it was about 6 months after Greg and I broke up, and I was invited to a wedding. So me and my friends went to the wedding. And okay, so my one friend who I will talk about, she was my best friend for over 30 years, and unfortunately, due to her borderline cluster personality, I had to disown. Okay. And I didn't like that decision, but it was the healthier decision for me. Okay. But we'll get into that. Sorry. So, I went to a wedding and my friend, my best friend at the time, had said to me, I was really down. I was like, there's nobody and nothing. And I still feel that way. There's nobody and nothing. Okay. Um, I was like, "There's nobody and nothing." And she's like, "Look around the room. There's like 200 people at this wedding. Pick somebody and go over to them." And I'm like, I was like, "Okay, in this day and age, if you pick someone, especially at a wedding with a bar, okay, That's what Wedding Crashers were about, the movie Wedding Crashers. That's what that movie was all about. People go, they're single and there's a lot of people their age at a wedding. These people were younger, but anyway, and you know, the male stars of the video capitalized on that and took advantage of all the desperate women. Okay. So I was like, I am not going to just pick somebody out and talk to them. She's like, I will. I was like, whatever. Now, I was not drinking at this time, so it's just relevant for later on because I would have probably been smashed if it had been nowadays. But anyway, so I she's like, look around the room. Somebody. I'm like, everybody's here with a date. We were each other's date because she was going through a divorce. I had broken up with Greg. So I was like, everybody is here with a date. I'm not gonna like identify somebody so their date or their girlfriend or their wife would get mad. She's like, He's like, "Just identify someone." And I was like and I looked around the room and I said, "Well, that's my type over there." So she goes and she talks to him. Now I'm at the bar, probably getting a Diet Coke, okay? But I'm at the bar and she's way across the reception room, hall, restaurant, whatever. And she's talking to the guy. And as she's talking, I see her kind of bent over because he's probably sitting down. She's bent over. My friend can't hear. And she turns around and goes, which means he's single. I was like, okay. Then she is talking more with him and she goes, she turns to me and goes, I was like, okay, evidently this guy is single. Now, first thing I think, what's wrong with you? Okay. And I had no idea who he was. I saw him across the room. I identified him as somebody who physically um, I was attracted to. And I was just like, that's it, right? Well, let me tell you what was wrong with him. Okay. So she comes back to me and I'm like, who is this guy? What did he say? Isn't he here with his like significant other? And my friend was like, no, he's either in the middle of a divorce or he just got divorced or he was separated, something along those lines. Okay. And I'm going to get into it for all those people that were like, yeah, sure, he was separated for tonight. Okay. So, so my friend said, I told him to meet you over here at the bar. Why at the bar? In 10 minutes. And I probably ran to the bathroom, fixed my hair, put lipstick on, whatever. And I was at the bar. So you know what? I don't even remember his name. So let's give him the name Harvey because there won't be any Harveys in any of these episodes or videos. Okay. Let's just pretend his name was Harvey. I couldn't for the life of me remember what his name was. Okay, so he came over and I was like, yeah, I was like, my friend is a little bold. I was like, she's gung ho on wanting to set me up. And so I don't really remember how, because this was 2015, so this was 9 years ago. He said, yeah. And so we start talking, and obviously we start telling each other what we, do for a living. So he was a teacher at a private school, and he also taught hockey, cross, I don't know, something with a stick. And so, in the usual Chrissy Incognito fashion, I was like, "Oh, that means you like kids. We're not compatible." Do you see how, like, quickly you need to size someone up and, make an evaluation? Now, I was probably, like, I was probably going to turn 41. Well, probably like 42 at the time, or whatever, and he was like 35. So he was, younger than me. So when I found out he worked at a school and he was also like a coach or whatever, I said, "Oh wow, again, having a poker face. I'm not like, whoa, you work with kids. That sucks. I'm like, because we need to get an honest answer out of Harry, whatever I named this guy. So I said, "Oh wow, yeah. I mean, that's great. My parents were teachers, blah 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 blah, back and forth." I was like, "You must really like kids." Because if his answer was, "Yeah, I really like kids. Like, I really thought like we were going to get married, me and my wife were going to get married, we were going to have kids." That would have been great. Or if he said something like, no, kids aren't my thing, because I've met people that are like, I like working with kids, but I don't want any, which to me, I don't want to work with them. I don't want any, whatever. And so he's like, I was like, "You must like kids." And he's like, "Well, I like hockey," meaning he doesn't like kids. But like a selfish son of a bitch, he was like, "Well, yeah, I'm invested in the sport, not the students." Okay. And yes, I don't like kids, but ironically, I like guys who like kids. So, because it tells a lot about a guy. It's different from a girl. I've met very few girls that it's women that they don't have kids. And 9 times out of 10, there was a reproductive issue, or they just never got married and was able to like find the right one. Like Eve I feel like more 9 times out of 10, 9.9999 times out of 10, people are like, "Just didn't happen," or "It couldn't happen," okay? I've met people here and there that were like, "Yeah, I don't want kids. I don't want them." But most of the time, it's like circumstance that people don't have kids. So I just assumed that, he was married, he was still young, he worked with kids, that he liked kids. His, I did not expect his response to be like, "Well, yeah, I like the sport." I was like, "We're done." Right? In my mind, I didn't end the conversation, but I'm like, "We're done." Like that to me tells a lot. That means, first of all, whatever sport, hockey, whatever he was interested in, he made his life around, which meant that was more important than any person. Okay. And then the fact that he chose to be around children and really didn't give a shit about kids. I mean, he probably wasn't bad, but he wasn't good, okay? I mean, I can truly say with the clientele that I had, they are very trying and they are very annoying. But I have like a real like passion to want to help them. And I've gone out of my way in my fields or whatnot to help them. Okay, they're pain in the necks. They are completely needy pain in the necks. But that doesn't stop the fact that I was passionate in helping them. Okay. So, okay, we're at the bar and we're talking and whatnot. And the bartender's older. So if I was about 42, this bartender had to be almost pushing 60. Okay. And with the older people, including myself, they don't like have their phones surgically attached to them. Okay. And he's at work, the older bartender. So he turns to us because we're the only ones at the bar, even though we're not drinking. He turns to us and says, "Hey, does anybody have the time?" Now, I did not have my phone on me. I don't know why, because it was probably left on a chair somewhere, but whatever. He turns around and he shows his wrist 'cause he has a watch on, and it goes like this. And, it's in these kind of places, like, whether it's a dance or a club or a wedding or a party, it's always dim lit. And he's like, "I'm sorry, I can't see that." He's like, "You can't see a Rolex?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're really done, you pompous piece of fucking garbage." And he's like, I don't know, whatever, it's 9:15. And he looked at me after he put his hand down, and I was like, "Yeah, I already made a decision about you, buddy, that you would fucking piss me off if we ever got together. We're not fucking compatible." I'm sorry for the cursing. So then, so that was kind of how it was, and it was kind of awkward, and the night was ending, and my friend probably came over and was like, "Did you exchange phone numbers?" And I was probably like, "We don't have any paper. It's okay," you know? And she came over with paper and a pen, and we exchanged phone numbers. I threw mine away immediately, and he never called me. Why did I even give him my real anyway, that was that was fine, you know? So, that was one of the instances after Greg of, like, a natural meeting, meaning I'm not online, I'm not hunting, I'm not you know it was just like a natural experience, and I was like, "Yeah, there's nothing and nobody," which I will get into in the next segment.